What's up, everybody? This is Big T Davis with Retail Therapy. Today I want to talk big swim baits. I briefly talked about big swim baits before, and I said that you can get into the big swim bait game without paying hundreds of dollars. There's a lot of these swim baits out there, Piz, Depps, Huddleston. They make these huge custom swim baits, and like I think a Depps, $125 for a Depps. I should have looked this up to give you some prices before I came on here, but Depps $250. So a Depps $250 is $169, $169.99 at Tackle Warehouse. Now Depps $250 is a glide bait, plastic glide bait, and it is approximately, let's see here, where's the size? It's 10 inches long, okay? That's a Depps. And you got Piz. And it's kind of overwhelming, the big giant swim bait game. It's overwhelming because being in Massachusetts, the first time I saw anybody using those large swim baits was those California dudes. Crazy Bass Fisher, aka Jeffrey the King on Instagram. He's like one of the leaders in the swim bait underground. Like before I saw anybody doing it, I saw him using these giant Huddleston baits and catching these huge 8 to 10 pound bass. And I'm like, oh, well, we'll never use those in Massachusetts because what for? We don't have 8 to 10 pound bass in Massachusetts. This is before I knew a lot about Massachusetts fishing, but I mean, we never saw fish that big in Massachusetts. If we caught a 3-pounder, we were popping bottles. But there are big bass like that in Massachusetts, and they will bite large swim baits. So the question is, if you're an angler out there on a budget, do you spend $125 on a Depps? You know, $150 on Piz. You don't have to. You can get yourself a large glide bait and be in the swim bait game. You don't have to spend that much money. I've showed you before, you can get an S-Waver. Okay, S-Waver. Again, I'll look it up on Tackle Warehouse. S-Waver, which is what I have. And I have a bunch of these big swim baits. I haven't done a lot with them, but the River to Sea S-Waver, that the 120 is, where's the information here? So the 120 is 4 3/4 inch. The 168 is 6 3/4 inch. And the 200 is 8 inches. So that's 2 inches short of the 10 inches that you're getting with the other one. It's a $32 swim bait. So if you're going to get in the swim bait game, you can do it on a budget. You don't have to spend big bucks. And a lot of guys, a lot of these anglers are buying these huge swim baits and then they're just reselling them for a lot of money. But then you have the guys that are using them, like Jeffrey the King, like Informative Fisherman, like 603 Bass, okay? I've used them a little bit, but I really haven't gotten into grinding large swim baits. I didn't have time to do it this past season because I had so many tournaments. I cut my tournaments in half for next year. I don't use giant swim baits in a tournament. You can't depend on giant swim baits. I mean, I guess you could. If you had a full bag and you wanted a kicker, then you could switch to large swim baits, but I don't use them in tournament situations. But they're fun to use. It's something that's great to learn. You need a hefty rod and hefty line and a reel that can handle these large swim baits. So, for instance, if I can get the scale open here. There we go. So, earlier this season, I showed you a couple of custom painted swim baits from Canadian Baits. I had him paint some bluegills for me. If you actually go to Canadian Baits website, you can see the Bubba Bass bluegill is up there. This is a custom paint job I asked them to do. These are bluegills. These are pretty big swim baits. They're not overly big. So these come in, that's almost 2.1 ounces. this one with the big trapper tackle hooks on it. This one's actually less. Oh no, that's 2.173 ounces. So you need a rod that can toss over 2 ounces for these. Okay, that's a good starter. These are your typical swim baits. These aren't glide baits, so you reel these and you swim them. And these come from Canadian Baits. And I think he only charges like $25 for these. If you go on the Canadian Baits website and look these up, I think he does not charge you much for them, and they're all custom painted. Okay, so there's that. So you start to move up. You know, you start with your S wavers and your glide baits, then you move up to something like this, and then when you really want to go big, so these guys over at Ranger Lures. Now Ranger Lures is also a Canadian company that does custom paint jobs. They make baits for catching muskie and pike. Okay, huge. I don't have my. Do I have it here? Yeah, it's here. So this is the huge, gigantic swim bait. Okay, huge, biggest swim bait I have. This is a 10 3/4 inch swim bait. Okay, nope, it's 10 1/2 inch swim bait, a little over 10 1/2. Okay, and he typically paints a pike or a muskie on this. I said, you know, we got a lot of pickerel in Massachusetts. Paint mine like a pickerel, and you can see it's got the black lines underneath the eye, just like a pickerel would. Again, another beautiful paint job. These Canadian guys, they do some killer paint jobs. Look at the size of this thing, totally custom made, custom painted. And I think he said he charges like $70 or $80 for this bait. Okay, so you have to ask yourself, and I learned this recently, do big bass eat small bass? Yes, they do. And if you have pickerel in the water that are around this size and large bass, would they eat the pickerel? Of course they would. So this is the pickerel swim bait they sent me. Now, if you go to Ranger Lures is on Facebook, and they're also on Instagram. So I'll put all that information in the description. But this bait, how much do you think this costs? So if you're watching this video, right now, go in the comments section and put a guess at how much this giant 10 1/2 inch swim bait costs. Not only is it 10 1/2 inches, let's see if I can get a scale numbers here. Just placing it on my tiny, this scale is not made for baits like this. It's like 5.9 ounces. I have to build a rig to throw this because I don't have a rig that can throw 5 ounces without breaking it. So I'd have to build a special rig to throw something like this. I have to build a giant swim bait rig. So for the Bubba Bass Bluegills, I have something that can throw a 2 ounce bait. So I'm set there. But if I want to go up and I want to go bigger, and I want to throw something like a Depths or a Huddleston or a Ranger Lures pickerel, I need a serious, like I might have to take my saltwater rod to throw this, but I need something that can throw heavy baits. As you can see, he puts quality hooks on here. And he even showed me, as he was doing the paint job, he took video and put it on Instagram. Puts the name under there, and it's got the rubber tail. So, pretty dope. So, you wrote your guess? I think he said this is around $80. So if you want to get one of these, you can get these for $80 from Ranger Lures. You can find them on Facebook, find them on Instagram, send him a message, and he'll paint one up and send it to you. Okay? So, I haven't got a chance to fish any of these. I am making it a point next season, when I'm not tournament fishing, to bring my giant swim bait rod where I know there's some good largemouth bass and throw these largemouth. Just bring one rod and throw these giant swim baits all day. I mean, that's all I want to do. This paint's coming off because of the fins, but I want to throw these all day. I want to do nothing, throw these all day and see what kind of bites I can get. I'm pretty sure I can catch a giant pickerel, or in certain areas I could probably easily catch a pike with one of these. But I want to see if I can catch a big bass. But that just goes to show you don't have to spend hundreds of dollars to get into the big swim bait game. It's there for you. You just got to look for the right people. And you got to have, obviously got to have the right rod. But don't be afraid to get in the big swim bait game. You can definitely catch some big fish with it. Ranger Lures also makes, they didn't have any in stock, but they make you know how popular the rat is, okay? They make a red squirrel. So they make a red squirrel that you can cast that's top water. As soon as they get some of those red squirrels in stock, I've got to get one. I saw it and I'm like, now, you're wondering why did I get so excited? When we were fishing Quabbin one day, true story, red squirrels will cross a lake. So we were cruising in our John boat, and sure enough, there was a red squirrel swimming across the lake. So I put my paddle out, because the squirrel wanted to break. He climbed onto my paddle, and then we gave him a ride to shore, and I put the paddle on shore, and he jumped off the paddle. So red squirrels do swim in lakes, I found out. So when I saw that Ranger Lures actually had red squirrels, I'm like, I've got to have that top water bait. So hopefully they'll make some more. I'll check back with them and see if I can get one. Again, Canadian Baits. I think they're canadianbaits.ca. Hold on a second, because it's Canadian. I always get confused. So Canadian Baits, and I'll put these links in the description. So Canadian Baits is Canadian Baits. I think it's just .ca. Yeah, canadianbaits.ca. And they got some crazy paint jobs. So check their site out. Check out and follow Canadian Baits on Instagram, and follow Ranger Lures on Instagram, and check the stuff out. I'm interested to see what you guys get. But yeah, I will see you on the next video. Peace out.